All right, ladies and gentlemen, it is Friday evening, and you know what that means. It's another episode of No Label Live, and I am your man, Nathan. And today, if you've not seen the show before, No Label Live is all about changing the way we view what things mean. Because I don't know who you are, but I know you've had labels, you currently have labels, and you can create the change you want with the labels that are put on you in the future. Today, our guest is Mr. Scott Johnston, and he is an entrepreneur, podcaster, and a change agent. He, much like me, wants to change the way that people view what it means to have a disability. So, Scott, welcome to the show. What's got you on fire today?
Oh man, being here with you, Nathan, my fellow CP warrior, man.
Yeah,
And I'm
absolutely.
excited to just share my story with your viewers and listeners and see if we can't change some hearts and minds today, man. Happy Friday as well.
Yeah, happy Friday. Every day should be a happy day. We shouldn't just wait for Friday, though, right?
Absolutely. Every day is a great day.
Yeah, it gives us an opportunity to fulfill our purpose. My first question to you, my friend, is when is a time when the label of disability had you feel like there was a limit placed on you?
Man, heavy hitter right out of the gate.
Yeah, man.
Well, the short answer is really over the last 7 years. The long answer is really because I hadn't come to realize it. It really been over the course of my entire life.
Mm-hmm.
In one area in particular, and that is in my personal relationships. Over the last 7 years, it had also crept more into my professional life as well, because much like you and some other people listening, I had become to feel like I have all this drive and ambition to change the world crammed into a body with limitations
Mm.
that made it difficult and or seemingly impossible at times to fulfill.
Man, I want to take a moment and let that kind of set in for people. Um, and if you're watching this and you've ever felt that, give us some emojis, give us a comment, because I know many people have felt that way before. Absolutely. Um, Man, I really want, because I think it's going to bring the most value to the audience, is to talk about that impact that had on the personal relationships, because it's something that impacts everyone and not many people even touch on it.
Yeah. Well, without even realizing it, here I was raised in a family, of all able-bodied people. My siblings were able-bodied, aunts and uncles, parents. I was the only one with a disability, so I was raised just like everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody gave me any slack or excuses. So I was told and raised to believe I could accomplish anything I put my mind to. And then you get out into the world and people start putting limits on you. And I hadn't realized until recently that even though I believed I could accomplish everything I wanted to professionally, that I was using the crutch and excuse of my disability and saying, oh, every time I got rejected by a girl or a woman I was interested in, I had said, oh, that's because they couldn't handle my disability or everything that a potential relationship with me brought to the table. And it was a really, really tough thing to come to terms with. And that just happened recently. And really, it took me from, I would say, about March of 2016 till really January of this year to fully process and start to heal from.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a tough lesson to learn. And it took somebody really, really special. And losing her to open my eyes and remind me of who I am, who I was, and really open my eyes to what I bring to the table to a potential relationship, and the fact that I can step into the role of being a boyfriend, eventually a husband, and hopefully a father someday.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've talked about that before we got on the call here today. And I loved when we were talking, we touched on communication and how important that skill is.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things I said to you is, I feel like if you don't understand how to communicate properly, there's lots of opportunity to let fear and anger take over in how you represent and show up in the world. And that just destroys relationships for sure.
Yeah, and like what I had shared with you before, Nathan, is for my entire life, at least as long as I had reached the age of, puberty and beyond, when I'd been interested in dating somebody and had feelings for somebody, there would be two different versions of Scott that would show up. The first one would be friend Scott. And that's me. That is the true version of me. The guy that is funny, sarcastic, caring, has a great heart for people, likes to help people, and really bring people up. And then as soon as there was a moment that I felt the relationship could turn into something more, the insecurity cropped up. And I would get clingy and needy. And it's only made it worse by social media, because you can be in constant contact with somebody even when they don't want you to be. And so it was really this toxic cocktail of insecurity, both emotionally and financially, as I grew up and came into adulthood, plus inexperience, not knowing what I didn't know, that really, really hurt me. Plus, not having healed from a lot of past trauma. And that is so important. If there's one thing I can stress to anybody that is listening, whether you have a disability or not, if you've gone through something in your life, do the work to heal, because you're worth it. And even though you may not mean to, if you don't heal, you're just going to end up hurting other people as much, if not worse, than how much you hurt, if that makes sense.
That's super powerful. And I want to go back to something you said a second ago and kind of get your take on it if we're looking at younger kids with disabilities who are in that beginning stage of starting relationships and everything. What do you wish you would have known as a young person dating with a disability and trying to figure out how to navigate that minefield?
Well, I would say to my younger self, maybe, 13, 14, 15-year-old Scott,
Mm-hmm.
you have nothing to prove.
Wow.
People see your heart, and the girls and women that are interested in you are good people. And they want to get to know you because you have a great personality and a heart of gold, and they see that. And that's all you need to show to anybody. You don't need to go above and beyond trying to prove that you're enough because you're afraid somebody's going to leave you. In fact, that I didn't figure that out until recently, that's why they were leaving, was because I was trying to do too much.
Mm.
And also, I would tell myself, that all you have to worry about is what's right in front of you. One of my best assets as an entrepreneur and a professional is that I'm a dreamer. I'm a big picture guy. One of my worst assets when it comes to dating is I'm a dreamer and a big picture guy.
He carried it all the way to the end, people.
Exactly.
See where this is going.
Because every time I found somebody I was interested in,
yeah,
more often than not, before we even went on a date, I could see myself married to them.
You had a ring, you were ready to go.
I had everything planned out. And because of that, I couldn't take the single step to initiate and go out with them.
Man, that's powerful. Because I can relate to that. So I know a lot of people will relate to that for sure. And I know a human nature thing. It's not just people with disabilities.
Yeah, and ultimately, I've read a couple of books, and one of them is called The 3% Man, and you can put, if you want to put a link to some of these books in the show notes or in the comments. But it's by Corey Wayne, and he talks about how most men are that way. Before we even go on a single date, we have our entire lives planned out, and it's completely normal. So that's just something that we have to deal with, and we have to learn to rein ourselves in and just deal with what's right in front of us.
Yeah, and I think that's key, because that relates to so many areas of life, not just relationships. We have to be able to take the first step in front of us in anything that we do to start getting momentum.
Exactly.
Man, this is powerful stuff.
And that also lended to a lot of anxiety too. Because I was such a big picture guy, one of the things that I was afraid of was being rejected by my girlfriend's parents. Doesn't matter who it was. Because I'd faced a lot of rejection by older adults in my life.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that's what really carried over and created a lot of fear and anxiety in my mind. Was yes, a rejection by the girl, but also a rejection by her parents, because as a guy, it's definitely different when you're a guy trying to date versus being a woman, whether you have a disability or not. And then you add a disability on top of it. And don't get me wrong, ladies, if you're listening to this, I am a feminist. If you want to work, that is just fine with me. But there is something innate in me that says I still need to provide and hold things down.
Sorry. Yes. That is like the biggest thing that can get people stuck, including myself.
So my thinking was, one of my biggest fears was stepping into a relationship with this girl. Mind you, things in my mind were already serious. So if I did, meeting her parents and them being like, okay, well, he lives at home, has no job, can't drive, and needs help day to day, and you want to marry this guy? I'm not so sure about that. And so that created a lot of fear and anxiety in my mind that ultimately led me to go to a life coach. And what really opened my eyes, again, was losing somebody special, but also when I was talking to some friends about even the prospect of dating not too long ago, even the thought of putting myself out there was paralyzing. The fear was paralyzing. I was literally, one morning, I couldn't sleep, and I was in the fetal position, shaking, because I was so scared of rejection.
Wow.
And that was a real wake-up call. And I didn't know what was wrong at the time. It took, like I said, it was about a 3-year process between me reading books, going through what I went through with this one girl, and then ultimately finding CP support groups and the right support groups on Facebook where people were talking about exactly what I was going through. And I finally put the pieces together and realized, oh, this isn't so strange. Not only is this not so strange, I can take care of this. I don't know how long it's going to take, but I can heal. And as soon as I figured that out, it's like, okay, it's time to go. Like, let's just take care of this.
So let me stop you there and let me ask you, what to this point do you feel like is the biggest step and action you've taken towards your healing process?
Oh, by far, it was going to a life coach and ultimately putting in practice daily rituals to keep my mind right. And without getting preachy, I'll just share with you what I do. I am a very strong believer in God. And so before I even get out of bed in the morning, the first thing I do is I pray.
Okay.
And then I read my Bible and also listen to some meditation every morning. And it takes about an hour, even while I'm getting ready to go to the gym. And that's how I start my day. And it starts my day off right.
Oh, man. So what has been like getting the life coach, you said, is the important step that you took. What perspective do you think having a coach provided you that you couldn't figure out yourself?
Easy. That even though it didn't feel like it at the time, I still had choices.
Ooh.
And that I was choosing pain. I'll never forget the first day I went in and had a meeting with my life coach. I told her that when it came to love, in my dictionary, in my own personal dictionary, if you look up the word love, there's a one-word definition under the word love. Big, bold letters, underlined, italicized, you name it. And that was pain.
Wow. Okay.
And she said, Scott, the reason why you haven't experienced the good side of love is because you've been choosing pain. She says, you are pushing people away to protect yourself from the fear of being left. So you're taking the pain now to avoid pain later that may not even happen. She says, and when you think about it that way, that's pretty stupid.
Yeah, you're taking a guarantee for you're not sure.
Exactly. Exactly. And man, yeah. So ultimately, the life coach and then the daily practices that have kind of sprung out after that or out of that to kind of do daily maintenance, I would say are my two biggest steps. And then ultimately finding the support groups and the right outlets to talk about this stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, man, this has been like fire stuff. I know that people are going to be like, hey, I relate to that. So I have a couple of more questions for you. And first, I want you to think about this. I haven't done this in a minute, but I'm going to throw this up here. We'll see what it looks like. So you have one of these. It says, hello, my label is. What I want you to think about is, what was this label early on? And then I want you to think about what it is it now, and let's look at how that shifted.
Ooh. That's early on is interesting because, like I said, even in just in life, whether it's in the classroom or even just with friends, I'd always projected this era of confidence or this air of confidence, and I still did. But then when I got home, I vividly remember times where I would cry myself to sleep at night.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you've been there too. And so I would say early on in life, hello, my name is insecurity, but you don't know it.
Ooh, okay.
Or
That's
hidden insecurity.
yeah. All right. So what is it as we sit here today?
Hello, my name is authenticity.
All right.
Because I feel like for the first time in my life, I'm putting all this stuff out there and being truly authentic to who I am. And even though I never had a problem with my disability, I trying to get a job in the media, and we didn't even talk about that. I have a degree in broadcast journalism, and my goal was to get a job in sports media. I'd still like to see if down the road there's something there for me. But I was told by a job developer to be very careful about the pictures that I posted online and what I posted online, and not to really show much of my disability, because he was afraid of doors being slammed in my face for jobs before I even got in the door, which makes sense, right?
Yeah, 100%.
That being said, that really bothered me. And I followed that advice for years. But it really bothered me because I never had a problem with my disability. I had a problem with the way other people viewed it, and there was hurt there. But growing up, I never even thought of myself as disabled. Like,
Mhm.
I can't tell you how many times my mom would have to remind me, Scott, okay, you want to go somewhere with friends, but what are you going to do with the chair? Or what about, oh, yeah, that's right, I forgot about
Yeah.
So, I mean, that feeling like I had to hide who a part of myself simply because other people may judge me for it really bothered me.
Man, that's such, just that word is so powerful. The word hide, because I went through a training, and there was one person in the training who, anytime we were doing the exercise together, I knew exactly what she was going to say, and she would say, "Stop hiding."
Yeah, yeah. Um, and so yeah, I would say, hello, my name is authenticity.
Awesome.
Or really, an easier way to do it. Hello, my name is Scott.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or my label is Scott.
Yeah, it's on the birth certificate, so why not?
That's right. It goes to that old joke. I saw a comic strip a while ago, and Saint Peter was at the pearly gates, and an old man with in a wheelchair was there, and he's walking him into heaven, and he says, "Okay, so how do you want me to classify you?" Because he has his list, and he has to put people, he has to classify people. He says, "You want me to call you handicapped, disabled, what?" He goes, my mom used to call me Paul. Paul works pretty well.
Yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely. Dude, I know somebody's sitting here watching this and they're like, man, I relate. And now I have two people that I can connect with that have been where I feel like I am right now. So, that
Yeah.
being said, how can people connect with you?
You can connect with me on Facebook. I'm on Facebook right now more than anything. I do have some Instagram accounts as well. I'm not doing so much there only because, and you guys might be able to relate to this too, I figured out that social media for me became a very unhealthy thing because I am stuck at home a lot. And so it really became a time suck and also a vehicle for comparison and frustration because
Yeah.
I would look at all of my friends who don't have disabilities and see what they're doing and be like, okay, well, why aren't I there? Let's hurry think, and it's just not a good place to be.
Yeah.
So you can connect with me on Instagram. I am at Swudge, my initials, Scott W. Johnston, SWJ Speaks, on Instagram. I do have my account temporarily disabled, but apparently people can still follow me, which is,
Okay.
I don't quite know how that works, but and then you can also look me up on Facebook and send me a DM. I disabled friend requests for people that I didn't know, only because I was getting a lot of strange ones. But if you send me a DM and say that you saw me on the Muscle Motivator with Nathan, I will be more than happy to connect with you. And if you need somebody to talk to, somebody who's been there, done that, and been through what you're going through, I will be more than happy to reach out to you, talk to you, and talk you through anything that you're going through.
Awesome. And we'll make sure and get all this stuff so you guys know where to go and how to connect. So my last question is, what does no label defines me mean to you?
And I've been watching the show, so I've actually been thinking about my answer, knowing I was going to come on here for the last couple of days. And no label defines me. I'm going to go back to the answer that I gave when you asked, what's the best piece of advice my life coach gave me? No label defines me means choice. It means choosing not to let other people's labels define you. Because ultimately, that's the choice we all have. We can choose to listen to the noise. And believe me, guys, I know it can get loud. When you've heard it your entire life, it can get really loud. But you can't let it drown out your inner voice and let those labels make you forget who you are. That is something that Mr. Rogers, one of my favorite quotes from the documentary that was done last year, was by Mr. Rogers. He says, I think the most evil thing in the world is when somebody makes somebody else forget who they are.
Man, yeah.
And it happened to me. And trust me, guys, it's not a good place, but you can get through it. And one last thing, Nathan, because I know we got to wrap up. I would just encourage all of you that haven't dated and but want that connection to try. Just try. Give people the benefit of the doubt. And no matter what you're facing, even though it doesn't feel like it at times, we're all human. And we're created and here on earth, whether you believe in God or creation or not, we are here on earth. One of the things we are here on earth to do is to connect with other people. And we all need that. no matter what we're facing. And I mentioned one of the books that I was reading, being a 3% Man, but also one other book that was really powerful for me that totally opened up everything and taught me everything I was doing wrong when it came to relationships.
Okay.
Is called Scary Close by Donald Miller. And Donald Miller is a Christian author, but Scary Close really isn't a Christian book. It's really more based on his life experience, and it's written from a man's perspective and really targeted towards men, but anybody can get good information out of it because it talks about the different ways in which our actions and putting on different personas at different times can sabotage the opportunities for intimacy. And so anybody who's struggling, I would really recommend getting a copy of that book.
Scary.
That would be yes, Scary Close by Donald Miller. It's a fantastic book.
Man, dropping all kind of knowledge today. And I want to thank you for being as authentic as you were during our conversation today. And is there anything else before we hop off that you want to leave the audience with?
I would just say, you're not what you do, you're not what you have, and you're not what people say about you. And you don't have to worry, and you don't have to hurry. We all have as much time as we need to be successful, and those of us with disabilities, it takes us longer. But it's okay. It's okay. And you're going to be okay. Because all of us have had to fight, scratch, and claw for everything we've ever gotten in life. And we didn't come this far just to come this far.
Yeah.
And then one more thing. A quote by Les Brown that I love, and he talks about this in terms of money, and success. But this is perfect for the mental battle that all of us have to face on a day in, day out basis, and goes right into my thing about how important healing is. And please, 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 if you're hurting, take the step to heal. But the quote by Les Brown is, if you do what is easy, your life will be hard. And if you do what is hard, your life will be easy. And I have found that recently to be so true, because facing all of that rejection and all of that hurt and going through what I've gone through and realizing that I have hurt others, even though it's unintentional, was really hard. It was really hard, especially for somebody who loves people and has a good heart for people. But being on the other side of it, I have realized already how much better my life has been. Even my relationships with friends are better. My relationships with family members are better, because I don't feel like every little comment they're saying is judgmental and aimed as a dagger at me and looked at as, geez, Scott, you're behind. Like, why aren't you where everybody else is in life? because ultimately that's what it felt like.
Mm-hmm.
And doing the work to go through that makes life so much easier. And you're worth it.
Yeah. Yeah. You are, if you're watching this, you are worth it for sure. Man, all I can say is if you've watched this and it spoke to you, it's going to speak to someone else. So make sure and share this episode. Ultimately, you are enough.
Yes.
You are sitting here today in front of your computer, in front of your cell phone, however you're watching this, you are enough. And
you're doing the best you can, and you're loved.
And, you know, if you're watching this, you're up to big things. And when you're up to big things, you must be patient, you must be diligent, and you must never, never quit, because no label can define you. Your label should always, always empower you. All right, guys, we will catch you next week.